Welcome in Deni's Inspiring Story podcast. In this podcast, we share real story, inspiring journeys, and powerful conversation with people who are making the difference here in the UK. Today, I am honored to have in my podcast a wonderful lady. Her name is Sam, and she is the volunteer leader of Care4Calais, an organization dedicated to support asylum seekers and the refugees here in the UK. Hello, Sam, and welcome in my podcast.
Thank you so much. It's an honour to be here, real privilege.
It is my pleasure to have you here today, especially in this week, that is the week of refugees.
Yes, it's an important week where we try to spread the word about refugee rights and advocacy and share inspiring stories, of which there are many.
We are interested to know more about yourself and about your job in Care4Calais. Can you introduce a little bit yourself for us, please?
Yes, of course. So, as you said, my name's Sam. I am the volunteer lead for Care4Calais in the Thames Valley. And really our role is a refugee charity working particularly with asylum seekers and people who've newly arrived in the UK, helping people when they first arrive and then as they begin to build their life and those first stepping stones into UK life. As the volunteer lead, my role is to work with a volunteer team by mentoring and building bridges between volunteers, those people that we work who are seeking safety here in the UK, and other organisations, so health charities, the police, other statutory agencies, and other charities in the area.
This is wonderful. How did you start working for this field?
Well, I've always been quite interested in social justice, and I think in 2015 the Syrian war unfolded, and I think pretty much all of us saw that on our TVs, and it was really shocking. At the time, my parents were living in France, and coincidentally, a bus full of refugees just arrived in their tiny little village in the middle of France. And my mum happened to be there to meet it and got involved, and she established a very tiny charity called Main Tendue, Outstretched Hands, which was a welcoming grassroots organisation. And during my visits there, I got more and more involved. The people that we met who settled there, who had still settled there in France, basically became like family members to us. And so I think once you start to meet people who've left their homes, you feel this huge sense of responsibility. And at the same time, a lady called Claire Mosley founded Care4Calais, which helped people in the Calais jungle that was building in France. I became an early follower of theirs, and here I am, I suppose.
What inspired you to be doing this work, doing every day with asylum seekers and refugees?
I think it's not responsible. There's a huge. It's a huge privilege to be trusted by people who've left everything behind, experienced some really very difficult things, and then diverse situations that people have had to leave. But the commonality is that the people are often, when we meet them, in very dark moments and a state of confusion. And I feel that it's a great privilege to be trusted at that moment. What actually happened in Reading is that in the COVID lockdown, all the other services shut their doors. So charities and many statutory agencies basically shut down. And we realised that a lot of people that we'd known in France were here in Reading and desperately in need of help, really, just in need of really basic essentials and access to healthcare, access to legal support and simple things like that. And that's when we started the UK groups of Care4Calais, when we realised there was this need, and then it's just something that when you meet people who've not had the same fortune you've had, it's very difficult to walk away, and I don't want to walk away. So it's a great privilege.
You are helping people that have difficulties. For you, what it was one challenge things, or what it was the most difficult time in this job?
Gosh, there are lots of difficult times. So I would say probably for me, each day I probably speak to 20 or 30 different people, different cases, and each day we'll have this whole up and down of emotions. So we'll go from, ecstatic happiness when someone gets leave to remain and sends me the message saying, yay, we've got leave to remain. But the most difficult things are definitely seeing people who've experienced torture, persecution, lived through war, and the effects and the trauma that those things have. And I think it plays quite a big emotional toll on us as volunteers, sharing that with people. So I find that difficult. Some of the more difficult periods that we've experienced, though, are I don't know if you were around in the summer of 24, where there were riots outside a lot of the asylum hotels. That was very frightening. It was a very scary period. It was really unsettling. People felt in danger, and I think there was a lot of re-traumatization of people. And again, it was a point where I know that quite a lot of other people working in this sector felt they couldn't continue and had to stop operating for a while or walk away. And to me, what was clear was that the people that we support who are living in those hotels didn't have that option to walk away. And therefore that meant neither did I and neither did any of our team. You know, it spurred us on to think, no, we can't walk away, we need to do more, not less.
Okay. Let's change now. Don't speak about difficulties, but about happy things.
Yeah.
What it was the unforgettable moment in your job during helping refugees or asylum seekers that came in the UK? Something that is happy.
There's plenty of plenty of memorable moments. So funnily enough, one of them that's not necessarily a happy moment, but that's memorable and very touching is I talked about my parents being involved with refugees. And my father sadly passed away a few years ago, but his funeral, his coffin was carried by those first refugees that we'd met that had become part of our family, and that was very emotional. In terms of celebratory moments, we've been present at the birth of babies as birthing partners. That's pretty amazing. I've been into hospital with people who've gone in for operations and then been there when they wake up from an anaesthetic, and that's a very close moment. You build very close bonds with people in these moments. But probably our proudest moment, I think, or the most memorable, was that the previous government had a policy to send asylum seekers to Rwanda and process claims there. I felt it was a policy that was unworkable, inhumane, really. And we worked very, very hard to campaign against that and to work with legal teams to get that stopped. And I was part of the Rwanda team within Care4Calais volunteer team. And we were in constant contact with people who were threatened with deportation, people who were in detention. And on the day that the first flight was due to leave, we were still in contact with those people and their families. And I think there was a feeling of deep despair amongst our team until about 11 p.m. at night, when we got a text that said, everybody's off, that's it. Nobody else is on the flight's not leaving, it's cancelled. And that was just a moment of great relief, but also huge pride at what we'd managed to achieve here.
Such a wonderful, and I'm seeing in your eyes now tears. This means that really you are a spirit of humanity.
Yeah.
And I want you to ask, how did this job change your life or your personality?
It turned my world upside down, I think it's safe to say, being involved in this organisation. It's very enriching. It's enriched my life. It's made me much more thoughtful, far more tolerant than I used to be. It's taught me a lot that different people's experiences are things we can learn and grow from. It's made me more environmentally aware, because so many people are escaping from natural disasters rather. And it's also curbed my shopping habit quite a lot. Because you know, when people are living in hotels here, asylum seekers, they're not allowed to work, and for that period they only get £9 a week. And I will maybe go into a shop, and where I might have thought not very much about buying takeaway coffee or a scented candle, now I'll pick up the scented candle and think £9, that's a whole week's money for somebody. And so it does make me question whether I need it, and consumerism, and I think it's made me much more environmentally aware.
Yeah, I understand a lot. And I want just only to ask you how important is for you to help people?
I've never really thought of it like that, to be honest. I think when I left school, I wanted to be a social worker, except I realised that I would be terrible at it because I would never be able to walk away. I would take all the problems home with me and I wouldn't observe the boundaries. I am quite a bit older than that now. It's a long time since I left school, and I've realised that although you can't solve all the problems, you can make a bit of difference. And I think we're very different to many charities. We get to know people very well indeed. And we constantly receive messages saying, you're like a mum to us. You know, the volunteers are like mothers. We feel like we're being nurtured even in our worst times, or even if we've done things that are not great, we know that you're there for us. So I think that's just, really a nice thing to think of, that we're here looking after people.
We are now this week in the Refugee Week. What is one message that you would like to give it to all refugees in the UK, that they like to build the future here, but sometimes they feel shy?
Yeah, so my message to people seeking safety here is you're welcome, firstly, and the vast majority of people, I do think, feel like that. They're welcoming and open and kind and compassionate. I think advice to people building a life is take it step by step, be patient, because the things that you faced and your resilience and your bravery, they stand you in very good stead going forwards. And I've seen that with other people building their lives. With experience, I can now see the cycle of there are difficulties, there are challenges that you face, there are barriers, but actually the ability and the bravery and the strength to overcome those barriers really gives you a great footing going forward.
And we know that asylum seekers, some of them come from difficult times, maybe from the country that are in war, or for personal reason that maybe they pass different trauma in their life. How do you encourage them to don't lose the hope inside of them spirit?
Yeah, yes, it's difficult. And there are days where we, maybe have a cup of tea together. That's always a good one. But there are days where we will sit and listen, and we can't offer solutions sometimes at that moment. But I think in those dark moments, it's good to know that somebody else is there and listening. And that's almost the maternal instinct of being there and caring, and looking out for people, even if you can't solve their problems. But I think the experience, what I was just talking about, that experience of knowing that things do move on. We can see now, and we're able now to introduce people who are newly here to those who've been here a bit longer, who can share their experience, and that offers motivation. But it can be really difficult, and it's just a question of being there together, I think.
Yeah. We are living in the UK, and we know that in the UK we have diversity of different cultures, language, and communities. And this is great, to be honest. But what is one thing that the society doesn't understand regarding the refugees?
I would say that it's remembering that refugees, they're just like you and me. They're not. There isn't an amorphous refugee. There's a whole lot of people who've experienced different things. And so I think understanding that people don't leave their homes for no reason. If somebody's left their home, their pets, their family, their culture, their jobs, their businesses, they haven't done that lightly. And there's the saying, isn't it, that you only put your child in a boat if what you're leaving behind is more dangerous. And I think that's not just a saying, it's there for a reason. It's, that refugees are people like us, but who've had less fortunate experiences than many of us have had.
What are the biggest challenges that a refugee or asylum seeker face when they came in the UK?
It's a difficult one for me to answer, but I've asked lots of asylum seekers about this and what they say. And I think when you first arrived in the UK, there's this, and you can almost see it on people's faces actually, because we meet people when they've only been in the UK maybe 2 or 3 days quite often, and that there's this whole mixture of feelings of relief and guilt and anxiety and uncertainty and just not knowing what's going to come next. Lack of information, not knowing who to trust is a really big one as well, because if you've left a regime like, a dictatorial regime or an authoritarian regime, you don't know who to trust, you don't know which figures you can trust in authority. So that's very difficult. But I think probably the biggest challenge initially for asylum seekers in that initial period, apart from this constant level of anxiety about what comes next, is the fact that you're living in poverty because you're not allowed to work, and because, as I said, £9 a week really doesn't go very far, and it makes everything challenging. And so integration is really hard when you can't afford to get a bus from where you're living into town, or you can't afford to get to your GP's surgery to get the medication you need. Poverty, therefore, is a big challenge. Overcoming trauma, obviously, is. And that's just a huge challenge. I think it's difficult at that stage when people first arrive.
What you have done as a charity is amazing and wonderful for lots of people, especially for people that come from difficult situation. If a young person wants to come and join you as a volunteer, what is your advice for him or for her?
Oh, do it, definitely. No, I mean, I think, so in terms of volunteering, when I first started, I'm really busy. I had a busy business and a family and lots going on, other volunteer roles, and I thought, well, I've probably got about an hour a week that I could spare, and I'll do that. And that hour a week, I think, for me and everybody else has evolved into far more hours than that. But that's because it's so enriching. We learn so much. We make great friends. We try fantastic food. We make amazing connections with people, and we experience moments of great joy. There's difficulty, but I think one of the things that brings us together is joy and music and laughter. So to a young person, I would say, yes, you're going to learn so much. Come and do it. In terms of working in the refugee sector, it's a very unstable sector. There's very short-term contracts. It's quite difficult. But actually, if you've got a bit of determination and a lot of heart, then it's a great place to be.
What are your hopes for the future of Care4Calais?
My main hope would be that we weren't needed anymore as a charity, and we just didn't need to exist. But unfortunately, I don't see that happening in the near future. I think that one of the things I love about Care4Calais is that it's a very agile charity. Because we're all volunteers, we can change quite quickly. So we see a gap in support and we can react to it quite quickly. So I hope that we can keep doing that even as we get bigger. I hope very much, though, that we can increase the number of people who've lived through the experience of the asylum system, and they join us to be part of the organisation and guide the organisation from that standpoint of having that lived experience. I think that's really important.
As I know, you are leading a library in Henley, and this is such amazing because in our days we need more people that loves books. What do you think? How important are books in our life, in this life that really we are addicted to technology?
Well, obviously, as a bookshop owner, I think that books are hugely important. My mother was a librarian, so books have always been surrounding me. There's a huge amount that we can learn from books, but I think for me, actually, probably the biggest importance of a book is the escapism, that we can put down our screens. We could work behind our screens all day long, but we can put them down and escape into somebody else's life for a short time while we're reading. And I think that's really valuable. I think we all need that escapism.
What is your favorite book?
Oh, my favourite book? I love Jane Eyre. If you want a sort of romantic-y one, I go back to that. But Aldous Huxley's Brave New World, which is a sort of dystopian fiction one, is probably my favourite, most thought-provoking book I've read.
Such amazing you are. You are a mom, you are a leader, you are a businesswoman, and you lead an organization that really needs lots of efforts and work every day. How can you manage everything in your life?
Yeah, you'd like to think you'd find balance. You know, isn't there's a saying in England that is, if you need something done, ask a busy woman. And I think that's probably true. But I don't think there's any working mother who doesn't think, I wonder if, I wish I had more time for my children, or I wish I had more time for my work. Am I doing it properly? So I think you've always got those moments, but actually you do manage to balance. And I was quite pleased when before I came here, I said to a couple of people very close to me, you know, how would you describe me? And all of them said, well, foremost as a very doting mother. So I was like, okay, well, at least I'm doing that bit right.
But how can you describe yourself in 5 words?
That's difficult. So, tenacious, I don't give up, I'm pretty determined. Passionate, so I'm passionate about the things I believe in, I'm passionate about human rights, I'm passionate about people I love and my friends. Empathetic, I try really hard to put myself in other people's shoes and see things from their standpoint. I'm curious, nosy, some might say, but I love learning about things and knowing about people and understanding different situations. And then the 5th one, which I'm slightly embarrassed to say, but I know it's true, is that I have a little bit of a tendency to be judgmental, so make judgments. But I'm quite aware of it, and therefore I have this little a graphic on my phone that I look at quite regularly that says, remember, other people have experienced different things to you, so treat their decisions with empathy and kindness. So I try and remember this, even though I know that I have a propensity to be a bit judgmental.
I think that during this job that you are doing, you get lots of thank you from different people. But in your life, is someone that you would like to say thank you? And why?
There are a few, but the first person that comes to my mum, obviously. But apart from her, the person that's changed my life the most is Claire Mosley, who's the founder of Care4Calais. And she is brave. She was brave enough to set up the charity. She was brave enough to keep going with it when other people would have given up. And she also taught me to be brave enough to meet obstacles head on instead of walking away. Definitely her. When I first started with Care4Calais in the UK, after about a week, there was a hunger strike in one of the hotels that I supported. And I was worried and upset. I got a phone call from Claire who said, right, what are you going to do about it? And that was the moment that I thought, oh my goodness, this is okay. This is quite a full-on role and with great responsibility, but it was good because that moment, I think, changed the way I looked at things. So I would definitely thank her.
And now is a special moment in my podcast. We have a magic jar here that it named Secret Jar Questions.
Okay.
You have to choose 2 or 3 questions.
Okay. How personal will they be?
1, 2.
Okay, 2 or 3? Let's do 3.
Back to you. 3. Okay.
Are you going to read them or shall I?
Ba-da-ba-bam.
What is the one thing that you wish more people understood about kindness? Kindness is not weakness, it's a superpower.
Thank you. Amazing.
Okay, so next one.
The second one.
Oh, okay. If you won £1 million tomorrow, what's the first thing you would do?
You will give it to me.
Just $1 million. I would figure out the best way to help many of the people I know into security.
A big clap. Thank you very much.
And
the third question.
What achievement are you most proud of? We already talked about the Rwanda thing, and that probably is something I'm doing. But my children. So,
They deserve it.
hopefully they'll grow up to be kind and empathetic young ladies.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Sam, for coming in my podcast today. And I hope that your story inspired different people that are watching my podcast now. And I want to say to everyone, be kind, be supportive, be human, because even a small act can change someone's life. See you in the next episode of Deni's Inspiring Stories. Thank you.